Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of The Psych Crusader. Here with me today is my special guest co-host, Tracy. Welcome to the show, Tracy.
Hi, thank you.
Fantastic. So actually, Tracy didn't realize it, but we went to high school together, but she was a couple years ahead of me. So um which just shows how worthless I was in school. No, just kidding. I was the best ever. But that mentality leads into our show today to where we're going to talk about narcissism in relationships. And Tracy, she reached out to me because she has a lot of experience in this specific genre. Plus, she has a psychological background, so that is going to help us out, kind of be able to kind of piece this all together and see what we can do with it, and see if we can make it make sense. Tracy, we gonna make it make sense today.
We're gonna make it make perfect sense.
All right. Well, I hope so because I'm a little. I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know how this is gonna go today because you know, narcissism's a little bit different than some of the other disorders that are out there. So, and it can be serious, it can be mild. You just don't know. You get stuck into that. So let's jump right in. So we're gonna do what we do on the show. We're gonna jump into the medical terminology of things. So, the narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health condition in which people have an unreasonably high sense of their own importance. I think that's pretty accurate. Generally, narcissists think very highly of themselves. Um, do you agree with that, Tracy?
Oh gosh, yeah. Their sense of self-importance is just it's out there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. So they need and seek too much attention and want people to admire them. So we're kind of seeing a few more clues coming together with this. And people with this disorder, they may lack the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others. I've seen it two different ways with that one.
Around you.
So sometimes it's come that way, and sometimes they do have feelings for others. It just depends. So, um, they generally kind of project extreme confidence, but most of the time it's a mask for
Yes.
their own self-esteem issues. So hopefully you're getting on board with that, Tracy, and we're heading down the right path still.
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay, good. Because I generally pull my information from the Mayo Clinic just because it's consistent. Everybody knows who the Mayo Clinic is, and they can go sue them and not me.
Right.
But people with a narcissistic personality disorder, they may be generally unhappy and disappointed when they're not given like their special favors, and when they're not like feeling like someone's admiring them. Um, kind of, they believe they're deserving something all the time. So we want to, really, pay attention to that part of it because I think that's significant in the definition of it as a whole. So they may find their relationships that they're generally in troubled relationships. And I think Tracy's going to really provide a lot of insight with that here in a little bit. But they have a sense of being unfulfilled. And other people generally don't enjoy being around narcissists. They only really enjoy themselves. So, yeah. Um, and we'll get into the treatment and stuff like that here in a little bit. But generally, the symptoms of being a narcissist, it's kind of deceiving a little bit because it could turn into this kind of goes with this, and it could go with other disorders that we haven't talked about on this show yet that we could eventually, like, you could end up with a double diagnosis with this type of situation because some of the symptoms match other things. So that's where you have to have a skilled psychiatrist to really take a good look at what's going on and how you're thinking about things. So that way you can get the correct treatment, the correct therapy plan, and all that. So symptoms wise, like I said, you have an unreasonably high sense of self-importance. You feel like you deserve privileges and special treatment. You expect to be recognized as superior even without achievements. That one kind of blows my mind a little bit. Like, how do you pat yourself on the back without really doing anything to get it? So
Yep.
I don't get that one. But they do it, you know?
They do it.
They make achievements and talent seem bigger than they are, which I've seen that in narcissists where they take tiny little things and all of a sudden it's you just won the Super Bowl. So I know you're dying to tell a story. You know what? Go ahead. Let's hear it.
You know what? When I think of a narcissism, I honestly think if you think about it, like it's just honestly special me, like literally special me. Because number one would be the S would be sense of self-importance, right? Number two would be the preoccupation with the power, the beauty, or the success, because they want it all, right?
Yep.
E would be entitled. They think they are entitled to absolutely everything. Absolutely. Even if they are in the wrong, they are entitled to whatever it is they think their mentality is entitled to. Like that's just their mentality. They think they're number one. They're entitled to anything and everything and anyone, actually, not just like, possessions or people, like just that. It's people too. Like they think they're entitled to absolutely everything. And then C,
Right.
they can only be around people who are important or special. Like, gosh forbid if they like go help somebody downtown walking, asking for $5, that they're not going to do that at all. They want to be around the most successful people because it gives them more sense of their entitlement. You know what I'm saying? It makes them feel better about themselves because their self-esteem is so low. So being around the more successful people, it kind of builds their confidence up. And then I, which would be the interpersonally exploitative for their own gain. A for arrogant. L, they lack empathy. The M for me must be admired. They must be admired at all times. There's nothing they can ever do wrong, and if they are wrong, they're never going to admit it. They literally want to be admired for everything that they do. They could say one word and it's like, oh my gosh, you didn't notice that I said that? Did you not care about that? Did you not care that I said that? And then E for envious of others or believe that others are envious of them. And I hold that dear to me because I've been through situations. Unfortunately, I actually have a baby daddy who and at the time I was so young, I did not know. I mean, I was a princess. I literally did not know. I wouldn't even expect somebody to treat somebody like that. I wouldn't expect somebody, maybe because I would never do it. So when I was in the relationship, it was more of the beginning was just, I think for me, it's more of a, when you don't know what's going on, it's like you automatically forget who you are as a person and your self-worth. And you start yourself as a person, you start degrading because of how they're treating you. Like anything, you could cook dinner, you could, leave a note, maybe give it something, and you never get a thank you. There's never anything letting you know that, okay, this is awesome. They're liking whatever you're doing. It's more of a, if they did something, you better make sure that you told them or you recognized what they did. And if they are not listening, they're going to make you listen to whatever it is they want you to listen to. I think for a lot of people, they don't really know the signs of it. You know what I mean? So to them, it's like, maybe, and this was my thing, is I wanted to help him. I wanted, I'm a people pleaser to begin with. So I wanted to help him because I wanted him to be a better person. But because they're so into themselves, you never actually get them to actually want to even go get help or go to counseling with you because you're the problem. They're never the problem. And I think that's where a lot of people, even myself, I literally went down, 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 down with myself because of
Right.
my self-esteem and them not giving me anything back and taking everything from someone.
So with you being a pleaser, did that cause like an enabling effect where you were tending to feed his narcissism to where you were basically putting your own needs and your own um the things that were important to you on the back burner to feed his
Yeah.
narcissism. And I can kind of see how that played out in my head now, to where he was benefiting all of it, and then as soon as you didn't have anything left to give, he then it's your fault. Well, why aren't you doing this?
Yep.
So that
Yep.
makes a lot of sense.
And I think
And unfortunately,
a lot of people go through it and they don't realize
yeah,
they don't realize they're even enabling it because at that time they don't even really realize they're with a narcissist.
right. No, they don't. And because it is a little, because early on when you're in an early relationship situation, you're both kind of peacocking each other, and so you don't see it at first.
No.
It takes a minute to see it. And so it's unfortunate that it works that way, because by the time you notice it, you're already stuck in it. And then it
Yep.
takes a little bit to get out of that. So yeah, that those are really good points. And I think that that's something that hopefully somebody out there is listening, and they can start, paying attention to where's the energy being pulled in the relationship. Is it being, evenly distributed, or is it being sucked in by one person? And I think that's
Right.
kind of how, if I was a woman, or I guess even men, because women can be narcissists too. It's not as common,
Right.
but it can happen. So I think you just need to really feel the relationship and find out where the energy is being pulled, and that'll tell you, kind of what's going on a little bit. So to go back into some of the symptoms, I think Tracy covered some of the other ones that were on my list. The special favors and taking advantage of others to get what they want. Um, Having the inability or unwillingness to recognize the needs and feelings of others. To behave in an arrogant way, you brag a lot, you come across conceited. Um, insist on having the best of everything, like kind of what Tracy said. You put yourself around the most prolific people you can find, so you feel your own sense of worth. So that's kind of where that goes. There's a few other, little behaviors. Once I find my little cursor, I always lose my cursor because I got two screens going on. There it is. They can, so when they don't get what they want, they can go by just basically what Tracy was saying, that they can get impatient and angry if they don't receive that recognition, and that absorbing of your energy is basically what happens. They're kind of like a succubus a little bit, and they're
Yes.
just taking everything, take. And and I'm sure we're going to get pretty deep into that here in a little bit. They have major problems like interacting with others, and it people don't want to be around that person that's always taking and never giving. So that's a difficult person to kind of be around all the time. They could react with rage or contempt and try to belittle other people to make themselves feel superior. How many times in school have we seen that play out, amongst, classmates and stuff, where somebody's always belittling someone to make them, to kind of hide their own insecurities.
Yeah.
They can have difficulty managing their emotions and behavior. They experience, I must have had a little glitch in my internet. They have difficulty managing their emotions and behavior. They experience major problems dealing with stress and adapting to change. which is huge for narcissists. They don't like things to change. They like to be able to predict things so they know how to use people.
Yep.
Yeah, change is bad for a narcissist. They can withdraw or avoid situations in which they might fail. So it's kind of like picking their shot. They're not going to put themselves in a situation where they're going to look goofy in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And so they could also feel depressed and moody depressed real easy, or they'll just get real moody of importance or perfection that they're wanting to. They have secret feelings of insecurity, shame, humiliation, and fear of being exposed as a failure. Now, for the nerdy side of things, because that's what I like to do on this show. Because I'm kind of a nerd about stuff. So I'm going to put my brain graph up. So there it is. So these are kind of the parts of the brain that are, I mean, there's lots of parts of the brain, but here are the ones that mainly are affected by being narcissists. So you have the amygdala, which is right, well, you can't see me point, what am I doing? But the amygdala is like kind of in the middle, like above the brain stem. And it's a lateral and medial, like it affects the prefrontal cortex, the anterior cingulate regions, and I'd have to get another graph up to show those parts. But these regions are linked directly to narcissism. And the strength of the connections between them can predict how they score on which is the NPI, for those of you who know that, the Narcissistic Personality Inventory test. But that's where they're pulling that from when they give you that test. It's from the amygdala and those little areas inside the brain. So you also have the left anterior insula. That part of the cerebral cortex, if you can read the graph, it's got the prefrontal cortex. They don't have it on there. But it's involved with the cognitive functioning. That's important. Because that affects your emotions, how you react to things. It gives you regulation and provides you to feel empathy for things. Generally, they have less gray matter in the left anterior insula. For those of you who we discussed gray matter on one of the episodes. And then like the social brain, it's a network of regions that include the amygdala and the orbital frontal cortex and the temporal cortex. And generally, the size of it matters. You want to generally have the brain contracts just like the heart does. So when you stress the brain out, it contracts. And so it just depends on what you're doing at that time as the size of those parts of the brain, whether you're putting it under stress. And generally, narcissists will stress a lot of the parts of the brain out simply because you're constantly trying to pull from other people and you're making your own brain stress out doing that, which is why a lot of times they get easily depressed.
Yeah.
So I will pull my brain map down.
And a lot of them will have sleep insomnia.
Oh, really? Okay. Now,
yeah.
Do you have anything else to add to that? Okay, go ahead. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, they will. A lot of them will have, because their brain is constantly working. And that's the thing I don't think a lot of, they don't mean like, I get this a lot. Are narcissist people bad people? They're not. No, they are not bad people. It's their behavior that's the problematic. And they never actually give you the opportunity. It doesn't matter whether you're their wife, their girlfriend, their mom, their dad. No, it does not matter who you are. It's not like you can just go up to them and say, hey, you know what, can we sit down and have a conversation about, things that need to change within, whatever relationship it is. They're never going to give you that opportunity, and if they do, you're by the time you leave that table, you're going to be like, well, I didn't realize I was that bad. I thought he was the one doing it. But literally, the problem with it is every time you go to talk about it, it's turned right back around onto you, and it's somehow and you
Right.
actually don't realize it, but you literally start thinking yourself like, oh, is it me? Is it me? And then when you start talking to other people about it, and that's what happened with me. I did not know, but I worked in the car business at the time. I worked with a lot of men, obviously. And so when I would go to work and I would talk to them about like, what, this is just weird. And I'm a nice person. Again, I'm a people pleaser. I will let somebody walk all over me a million times, because I'm a people pleaser to an extent. You know what I mean? Like, but I would go to work and I would tell these stories like, okay, is this normal? Do you guys do this? And then they would start talking. And that's how I literally started looking into narcissism myself, because I was like, okay, maybe, because at that time I'm thinking he's a bad guy. This is a bad person. What am
Right.
I going to do? I have a baby with him though. So I have to stay with him and put up with it. Right. But I really didn't. But again, at that time, you just are so much into that male, whatever. Again, you just like, you want to do everything you can for them.
Right.
They don't want to do it themselves though. To them, it's always going to be you until they can go get the help themselves. But
Right.
neither one of my baby daddies ever got help. They're still having issues. But I think that's where when you're with somebody and they're constantly putting you down, that should be a first ding 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 ding. Something's wrong. You know what I mean? And more than so, he's going to end up being a narcissist. He's going to end up, or she's going to end up being. But you were right. It's very uncommon in women. It is way more common in men.
Right. I actually can't name one woman that I would probably say could potentially have narcissistic behaviors. I'm not that I can't say that it's never happened, because I'm sure it has, but
Right.
off the top of my head, I've never seen it in people as in females.
Yeah.
Usually it's 99.9% men.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the causes of how narcissism happens, number one, genetics. So there's no real exact cause for narcissism. It's considered an unknown in the psychiatry world. So they're still trying to figure out how these things happen. Now, in my experiences, I think a lot of it is learned behavior, um,
Yes.
because people get put in certain situations in their life, and I probably have a sense of narcissism myself. I'm a very short person. So when I played football in high school, everyone said, you can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do this because you're too little. And so I worked and worked and worked. Well, then I became good. And then I broke every school record. And then my narcissism kicked in, because now I'm on top and I know how that feels now. And I wanted more. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think I learned myself to develop a narcissistic behavior over a period of time. And I didn't realize that it was like that for years later. And I just realized, like, I have marital problems, and it was because of how big of myself that I thought that I was.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we look at the treatments for narcissism, you can't just go to your psychiatrist and they hand you a prescription and say, here you go, this will fix your narcissism. It doesn't work like that. It's not like clinical depression or ADHD, where they just give you a script and say, here, let this kick into your body for a couple of weeks and you're good. There's no meds for it.
Mm-mm.
And so it comes down to just being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
If you have that conversation with yourself, I like to look at myself in the mirror for Oh, my assistant's telling me I'm echoing from something. Let's see what I got an audio problem going on here. Yeah, I don't know. I got all the echo cancellations on. Shauna, I need you to come over here and be techie person. Let's see. Maybe I'll switch off my main. All right. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe that'll work. I switched off to a different mic. Still echoing. If you go, Tracy, if you go into your settings and you click on audio.
Okay.
There should be some boxes that you can click, like it'll say echo cancellation.
Uh-huh.
Are those already on?
They're checked blue.
Okay.
Are they supposed to be checked blue?
Yeah, they're supposed to be checked blue. There should be 3 of them checked blue.
Yep, they are.
Okay, well, you're good on your end. See, I don't get an echo when you talk.
I don't hear you echoing.
That's weird. Well, I guess I'll just have to. I don't think it echoes as much when I talk lower. Okay. But anyway, so genetics is the biggest thing. That's gonna drive me crazy. Yeah, Sarge just told me that will go. Let me try this. Yeah, that's a good point, Sarge. You might be right. That's what I'm gonna try to do. Work on these technical difficulties real quick. Let's see. Okay, can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, it should be good now.
Go lay down. You should go lay down.
That's kind of all right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and continue. And now I'm not hearing. It's still there. But so after genetics, there's things can generally be, as we know, with many other. Cutest dog ever. What is that? Colin, what are you talking about? And see, this is why I get my political guys in the comments on this show. But so when we get into like genetics affects everything. Everything that we do is genetic. But childhood experiences can also cause narcissism, as we just talked, where there's the like trauma. You go through something traumatic as a child. You get rejected for something. There's neglect or abuse or excessive praise or criticism. You know, there's a lot of different factors that can jump in and cause, that can kind of trigger those behaviors. A lot of it, like I said, it's learned behavior, and you know, there's not a whole lot. Tracy, are you using headphones or speaker?
No, just what's on my computer. The
Yeah,
mic on the computer.
You might have to use if you got earbuds or anything. Those are probably gonna eliminate that.
I do. Hold on. Let me see.
I've been sitting here sweating. It's like 70 degrees out in Georgia today. For those of you that are in Ohio, I think most of you are in Ohio except Shauna. It's hot.
Yeah, tell her, Sarge. Tell Shauna that she needs to stop doing that. For those of you who don't know, Shauna in the comments is on my other she's my other podcast host. And then Sarge went to school with us as well, Tracy. He was in my class.
Really?
And you probably know his sister Amanda. I think she was in your class.
What's the last name? Oh, never mind. Don't tell me
Kimmel.
yet. Tell me later.
Kimmel. So to continue on. Yeah, it still has an echo. Yeah, I can tell you've done this before, Sarge. He's got his own podcast as well. It's like our whole school's full of podcasters and authors. It's weird. There's like Mrs. Gerber wrote a book this year. Nicole Suvar's written like 2 books. I'm on my second one. It's crazy. So parenting style also plays a part in that, along with your childhood experiences, just from like dealing with like your day-to-day issues as a child. But your parenting style, like if parents are overprotective, generally you're going to create a sense of narcissism in your child if you overprotect them, because they're going to believe that that everyone's always going to give everything to you all the time. So you want to protect your children, but you don't want to cater to every single little thing that they need, because you actually do more damage than anything. You have to let them go out there and problem solve things on their own. Not saying that, that's the exact perfect way to do it, but the Mayo Clinic does say that if you overparent your child, you could turn them into narcissists. So you can blame the Mayo Clinic. And like I said, like this is one of the biggest ones for me, and I brought it up a couple of times now because I think it's important. Like the culture that you have around you, the learned behavior things, you can cause the narcissistic disorders. You should be, when you're dealing with people, you should encourage them to be individuals. Let them go find their individualism, because if you don't and they just depend on you all the time, you're not going to be able to get them off of you, I guess, for lack of better words. There's also like neurobiology issues where things just aren't hitting the receptors right. You have this need in your head, and one of your neurotransmitters is lacking in something. And so you have this zooming around, and it's trying to plug something in there that it can't find. So that can happen as well. And generally, if you're the type, if you're a narcissist and you're receiving praise all the time, it's because you have something missing in your neurotransmitters and there's nothing there to fill it with. And so it's always looking for something to fill it with. So it finds other people to give it that chemical release that it needs. Observation and imitation is where you learn behaviors from others. The imitation, you imitate other people. So there's that. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to Tracy, and I'm going to let you talk more about your experiences and what you've had to go through and how you overcame them or how you opened up to them.
Oh gosh, you know what? It's to say this is it'll hurt, because to know that I even let myself go through 5 years of just hell. That's what it was. I'm not even gonna lie. It was hell. And the thing, it doesn't come out the first 4, 5, 6 months. I promise y'all, it does not come out then, because that's still like, I want to say your honeymoon. I've never been married, but I would assume it's like your honeymoon phase or something like that. It really is not until you're like living together. It's very rare you're going to see a narcissist like not living with you. And if you do, again, it's just very rare. It's not going to happen very often, mostly because you're going to be around other people, your friends, this and that, and they're going to start noticing it. Even when you're not noticing it, they are, and then they're going to come to you and talk to you about it. And that's what happened. That's literally, like I said, I would talk to people at work about it. My mom, she was like, my mom and dad were on top of it. And you know, when you're going through it, again, you're in love with that person. Like, he was my baby's father. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I wanted to help you. I wanted to do everything I could to stay and make it work, because at that point you do think it's all you. And there was no more I could better myself with. Like, I was working 12 hours a day. I was taking care of, what else did you want me to do? But I was never good enough. Nothing I did was ever good enough. And I think after about 4.5, 5 years, something inside of me snapped. And I think it's because I started drinking. I just literally saw myself going down a path that I had never been down in my whole entire life, because I knew my worth, but I didn't anymore. I had lost who I was as a person. I had lost who I was as a mother, as a sister. I had lost my sense of who I was, because I was so into trying to make this person better, and he wasn't trying to he was just continuously, I'm enabling him, basically, is what I was doing. I was not helping him as much as I thought I was at all. And so something just clicked inside of me, and I don't think it was for me. It was basically for my child. There were some incidences that were like, he slit my wrist one time, and my youngest, well, he's my oldest now, had to call 911. And there were just instances like that finally just clicked inside of me. And I was like, that at this point, I'm still thinking I'm a worthless piece of crap. That's just how I'm feeling. You know, this is how my thought process is about myself. But at that time, and I'm glad that I had a son, because I don't think I would have. I think I would have stayed in the relationship, to be honest, because again, I would have tried to keep helping. But I think because I had a son and I kept seeing it and hearing everybody else, and once you're over and over and over, you start to realize too, like, okay, this isn't right. And so you're like, you want to take your son or your child out of that situation, because you don't want your child to go through the stuff that you realize you've gone through. And like you said, it does come like genetics, but I also believe, and I know his dad, it came from his mom, because his mother just smothered him as a baby. Like, he did nothing. Everything was just given to him. You know what I mean? So he just automatically thought he was entitled to everything. And so when his dad, had passed away, he got all this money. That was even worse, because again, now his head's this big, and now he's just still thinking, and his mom's praising him. So when you have family that's praising a narcissist, they're not really realizing that this narcissist is really affecting other people, because they don't want to see their child being called a narcissist, or
Right.
being known that they're treating somebody the way that they're treating them, and they don't want to take responsibility as a parent. They don't want to take accountability for their own actions in helping a narcissist and enabling them like we do, and we shouldn't. But I would honestly like
Yeah.
to anybody just to know, like, when you start, like, the first sign of not being able to sit down and literally communicate and talk through things, when it's just you better run, because that literally is the first sign. And I know a lot of people say a lot of different signs are different, but that's literally the first sign, when you can actually see and feel in yourself, like, okay, why is this not my problem and not his? Why, and when you start, you just know, like, don't try to help him or her, because you're not going to be able to, because they literally have to get that help themselves. Because you
Right.
there's no pills for it. That you literally have to
Nope.
sit down and talk with somebody literally constantly. It's not just once a day thing, it's every single day, because your whole mentality changes. Everything about you, what you used to think, changes. And that's where, like, a narcissist, they don't want to do that. That's too much work for them. They don't want to go to counseling every single day, because they don't see themselves as a problem.
Right. And so how is the only option to run?
In my opinion, I wasn't married. I didn't have a ring on my finger. I think even if I was married, I would have ran. I finally, I finally got up and ran. I ran, because there's only so much you can do and say and try to help. Again, I hated myself. I was not a good person to other people, because I was too busy into this person. And being belittled all the time, that you didn't even want to go talk. I didn't talk to anybody, because I didn't feel like I was good enough. That they take all of your energy. You honestly feel as if you are not good enough for anything. So I mean, I guess if somebody wanted to, I didn't love him that much. And that's just to completely honest. I was not in love with him. I had his baby. I wanted to make it work. I think if you're married, I think if you wanted to keep your marriage healthy, and you wanted to, keep your family together, do I think if two people went to counseling together 3-4 times a week, I do think they could help. I do think it could help. I really do.
Yeah, at the end of the day, psychotherapy is the only thing you can do for somebody with the narcissistic disorder. But if they're not going to be honest with themselves, they're not going to get anywhere, and you're just going to drag everyone around you down.
And that's what
It's
happens.
honesty,
And I lost
self-reflection.
and they lose so many people in their lives. Like, you could have 20 friends today, but next week you're down to like 10, because you lose so many people. But again, they want to be with the best, so they're like, oh well, we'll go get another one. You will go find another best friend. It's
Yeah.
always like, it's just like a pattern. It's like never ending.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough thing. And so knowing what we know about people who have narcissism, that it's not something that once you have it, it's there. It's not going to just go away. And so we have to figure out ways, when we identify this in these people, how do we communicate them to say, hey, you need to look at yourself in this light, because this is how other people are seeing you. And that's going to be a difficult conversation, because the narcissist is not going to want to hear that you just exploited their weakness. So that's going to be tricky. That's going to be tricky. Sarge, you're funny. But what do we do? What do we do with it? There's science doesn't have they don't have an answer for it yet. And as people go through traumatic things, or like you said, just parents trying to raise kids can trigger that. There's so many different ways to trigger narcissism. And I think that's why you're seeing, and I didn't go look at the statistics of it, and usually I do that, but I'll bet you the percentage of people with narcissism amongst men is a lot higher than what it used to be 30 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is it something a trend we can stop? I don't know, but it's definitely going to be a negative contribution to any relationship that they're in the future.
This thing says, oh, so because of course I had to look it up because that's interesting to me. This thing says 5% of people in the US may have it. Between 50% and 75% of cases affect men and people assigned male at birth.
Wow, at birth?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Shauna, I like your point that you just brought up. So social media does play a big part in that, and it is given unrealistic expectations. That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's not helping things, and that may be what's causing the triggering to have kind of an uptick. It's something we've all become narcissists. What do kids do nowadays? They do this all day. You know, we're creating narcissists all day, every day.
And you know what? I've said that. And of course I have a 5-year-old that he does not have an electronic because I truly feel as a parent, my 19-year-old didn't have them either. And he's not one of these people who are on social media today. He doesn't have he doesn't have Snapchat. He doesn't have TikTok. He doesn't have Facebook. He's not into that. That's not his thing. And I think it's because I didn't allow them. And that, I think you're right. And I think she's onto something, because not when you're a parent and you're allowing, and you're a parent, do what you want to do, but when you're allowing these kids at such a young age, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, to be on TikTok of all, you know what I mean, making videos, telling them they can make money, you got all these comments. And I do it too. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't do it with my child, but I think that's where a lot of these children are growing up to, like, thinking they're entitled to absolutely everything because their parents train them that they're entitled. Social media trains them. When you're reading these, comments, half of them are probably good. These kids are reading them. So they're at 7, 8 years old thinking, I'm the shit. I'm the shit. The whole world likes me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That right there is narcissist behavior. Yes.
Yep. Get rid of electronics. That's the goal.
That's what I said.
It's the goal. Get rid of them. I think, Shauna, you're onto something again. Why aren't you right at work? Why don't you just be right at work all the time? But you're onto something. I'm just kidding with you. But I think it takes two strong-minded people in a relationship with somebody with if one of you have narcissistic behaviors. I think being strong-willed and strong-minded and having a real 50-50 conversation about it, and talking about the struggles that you have the way you think, and the struggles that she has the way that she's going through it with you. I think those are going to be key conversations to have that could keep a relationship going. If one side just doesn't want to deal with it, relationship over.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
And unfortunately, that's pretty much what happens. Like, I can't tell you how many relationships both of my baby daddies have been in, because it's just reoccurring. They will never change. Even though I've had the conversations and I've been the nice one, like, come on, I'll go with you. Like, you know what I mean? They'll never change until they want to change themselves. And it's just a recurring behavior. And to me, I'm just like, if you want to be the next one to take, bye, like, go for it, have fun, but and it sounds mean because you don't. I mean, I've been through it. I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. It's not pretty at all, and it takes a long time to get yourself out of being in a narcissistic relationship. But again, you can't really tell other people what to do either. So if they've got to literally, like myself, I had to see it for myself, and then The second one, let me tell you something. It was a year, 1 year. And I was like, bye. Like I just saw everything and I said, this is not happening. I'm not doing it. You got to go. Like, it's a conversation. We had the conversation, right? He didn't want any help. I'm walking out. We're just going to separate because I'm not dealing with that stuff anymore.
Right.
And I think that's what it boils down to. Like you got to have two people that are willing to literally take accountability for their own actions.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. If it's got to be a two-way street, and one way is not going to work. And most of the time, it's going to be the narcissist that's going to cause the problem because they're not going to accept that reality that they may be the problem, especially when they get so far down that rabbit hole where they believe their own hype. That's a tough thing to crack as someone when they believe their own hype.
I know you said you knew my brother. Trust me, he is a narcissist. He is one. I'm not bullshitting one bit. I stay far away from him. I'm not kidding you. Like, and you just, and he's my brother and I love him with all my heart. But I need you to stay over there because he's 49. He ain't changing. You know what I'm saying? So like, it hasn't just been boyfriends. I've been with a brother that's that way. And he's even more that way now that he's older with the car lot. So for me, you got to stay. If I see the signs, you got to go this way and I'm going to go this way because I know me. And me being a people pleaser, it doesn't matter if I know it or not. I'm still going to try and help. And then I'm the one that, you know what I mean?
Take it easy on old Frankie. He's a good dude. Loyal.
Oh, yeah.
He's loyal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen him in a long time. But I think we covered a lot of good, really good points today that hopefully that somebody out there will say, you know what, I'm going through this and I know what I'm looking at now. And maybe I need to reevaluate things. And like I said, everybody, the comments are always open after my show. You can leave me comments and I check them all the time. We're a safe space here. Anything you want to talk about, we'll talk about it. I want to thank Tracy for coming on the show, and we look forward to having her on again. And you gave a lot of really good insight. It's very, very nice to have. Otherwise, they just sit here and listen to me talk about nothing the whole time. So thank you for being on the show, Tracy.
Yeah, and thank you for having me.
It was awesome. It was awesome. So that's the end of the show for the day. And I will see everyone on Wednesday when I do the Expendable show. And hopefully the liberals haven't gone crazy and melted the country down. So I'm out. Everybody be safe.